Has Nvidia's GeForce Now already hit a brick wall? Let's find out. So welcome to the very first tech recap. So on this week's tech recap, we've got some of the biggest news from last week. First one up. So Pokemon Home has finally gone live. Now what that means is you can finally stick all of your Pokemon into one handy location. No more having to have some on Pokemon Bank, some on your older versions of the games, and some on the new ones. Support for Pokemon Go will also be coming across in the future. There's all sorts of cool different features that you can get on Pokemon Home as well, and we did a video just to cover that, which you can find in the link below, so make sure that you check that one out. Samsung held an event and they showed off some devices which we all pretty much knew were coming. We've got the S20, the S20 Plus and the S20 Ultra. Now some of the major differences between them, apart from screen size, are things like, so the S20 and the S20 Plus have a 64 megapixel camera. They've also got a 3x hybrid optical zoom, so let's see what wizardry they pull out there, and something called a 30x super resolution zoom. Interesting to see how that turns out in the real world usage. The S20 Ultra has a whopping 108 megapixel camera, so that's absolutely massive. It's also got a 10x hybrid optical zoom and a 100x super resolution zoom. So let's see what sort of wizardry they do with that one as well. Be interesting to see them in the real world. Now, the big takeaway from that was the Samsung Z or Z Flip, depending on where you live, which is Samsung's next iteration of the foldable phone. Now, this is very similar to the Motorola Razr in the fact that it folds vertically. It also has far more modest specs. So we've got two 12 megapixel cameras on the back, one wide angle and one ultra wide, and a 10 megapixel camera on the front / the inside, which is cut out with a little hole punch. Why we still have to have a hole punch is beyond me, but hey, Samsung seems to love them. Now, on the front side, on the outside, you've also got a 1.1 inch Super AMOLED display as well, so that way you can see yourself doing some selfies, kind of making that internal camera a little bit pointless. But hey, who am I to argue? By far the most exciting thing to come out of that event in my opinion. We'll see how those turn out in the future. Fingers crossed they have far less issues than the original Galaxy Fold. So big news recently, Nvidia's GeForce Now went live. I love it, we loved it, and we did a video on it. Only now we're starting to find that there are a lot less games for us to play, even though we already own those. So the news that landed last week was that Blizzard Activision has pulled their entire library from GeForce Now. Now statements have come out saying this was down to a misunderstanding and they shouldn't have been there in the first place, and they're looking to get some kind of agreement in place to bring the games back to the platform. But it does bring up that whole ownership issue all over again, over who owns your games and who has the right to tell you what you can and can't play them on. So we'll be watching this space to see what happens with the game streaming in future. Hey, here's a one for controversy. Metro Exodus has gone live on Steam, finally, after it went exclusive with Epic last year. Now, the good news is, for anyone who's been waiting to get it on Steam, is it has come to the Steam store with a 40% discount at the moment. So, you know what, might be worth picking up. Obviously, if you still wanted to play the game and you haven't played it any other way. So, let's see how that turns out, and fingers crossed the review bombing might finally ease up for them. So 2020 seems to be the year for game delays, but not so for Valve, who've brought the launch of Half-Life Alyx forward to March 23rd. So, you know what? We're going to be able to revisit Half-Life again soon. Sooner than we thought, although it is going to be in virtual reality. We'll be dusting ours off so we can have a play and bring you some of that gameplay. Are you excited? Are you not? Are you going to get motion sick? Let's find out on the 23rd. And finally, Motorola and their brand new flip phone Razr. It's having a bit of a rough launch, especially since Samsung came along and stole all their thunder with the ultra thin glass on their display. Now, iFixit have recently done a teardown on the Motorola Razr, and they've said it's their most complicated to date teardown of a device. That doesn't bode well for repairability. In fact, they even scored it a 1 out of 10 in terms of repairability. That's not great. But what do we expect from these early editions of things like foldable phones, which are extremely complicated? Well, fingers crossed you don't drop them if you've gone and got one. So that's all from our tech recap. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video and you'll tune in for next week. So we'll be doing these every Tuesday just to give a very quick overview of some of the biggest stories that we've been covering over the last week. So thank you very much for watching. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe and support the channel, and we'll see you next week. Ta-ra!